If you've been creating electronic prescriptions in InteliDOX using a screen that looks like this, we've got good news for you. With InteliDOX version 4.1, which is certified for stage 1 of meaningful use, you can now create prescriptions and send them electronically using InteliDOX's own prescription module. This video will show you how. I've already selected a patient, and as usual, I'll click the Meds button to view the patient's current medication list and to start a new prescription. Once your practice has been updated to this ePrescribe version of InteliDOX, you may see some red exclamation points like this next to some of your patient's old meds. The red exclamation point means that an exact match for that medication could not be found on the list of drugs that can be ePrescribed. InteliDOX won't be able to check this medication against the patient's allergy list or to warn you if this drug interacts with other medications that the patient takes. If the patient will take this drug again in the future, you should create a new script from scratch for this drug instead of trying to renew the old script with the exclamation point. FYI, these red exclamation points will also be displayed on the patient summary screen, both for the patient's old medications that can't be matched to anything on the updated drug list, and for any allergies that don't match the drug list. Okay, back to the Meds screen. To create a new prescription, I'll click the New Rx button down here at the bottom right. You'll see a screen very similar to the one you've been using all along, with a few minor changes. The day supply and dispense fields have been moved, so you'll want to keep that in mind when creating new scripts. There's a new optional units field that you'll typically leave blank, but it can be handy when prescribing medications that don't come in pill form or that you don't prescribe in specific amounts. For example, you could use this new field to prescribe 1 bottle, 1 tube, or 1 package of a medication. There's now one simplified SIG field, where you'll enter the instructions for the patient, and a separate Note to Pharmacist field where you can enter instructions that should not be printed on the medication label, like label in Spanish or do not fill until a date in the future. The box right below that shows a quick summary of the patient's insurance coverage if that information is available. And once I select a specific drug, that box will be highlighted in green if the drug is on formulary, or red if the drug is non-formulary. The process of creating a new script hasn't changed much. Over here on the right, you choose the drug list you want to use. I'll use the MyRx list. When I select a drug for a patient whose formulary information is available, InteliDOX will check what I selected against the patient's formulary. If my selection is not on the patient's formulary, this big red box will pop up, showing the drug that I selected, its non-formulary status, a link that I can click to keep the drug I selected if I want, and in most cases, a list of alternative drugs that are on formulary. If I really did want to prescribe the drug I'd selected, even though it's non-formulary, I could click this Keep Current Drug link, and the drug would be added to the script. But if I look again at the list of alternative drugs, I may find that the generic form of the drug is on formulary, or that a different form or dose of the drug is on formulary. And in most cases, at least one alternative on-formulary drug will be displayed. If any drug on this list is acceptable, I just click the strength and form that I want, and that's entered on the script for me. The day supply, refills, and dispense fields work the way they always have, but remember that the day supply and dispense fields have been swapped around. The Quick SIG Aid button is still available and gives you an easy way to fill in the SIG, day supply, and quantity to dispense fields. If you use Quick SIG Aid, you'll just need to set the number of refills. If I select a drug that's on formulary, adding it to the script is even faster. This box will light up in green and show the drug status as on formulary, and since I'd already saved the instructions and quantities for this drug on the MyRx list, I just click Accept to add it to the script. Please keep in mind that ePrescribing of controlled substances is not yet available. You can ePrescribe multiple medications at a time, but if the patient needs any controlled drugs, be sure to do those on their own script, separate from the meds that you'll send electronically. When the script is ready to send, click the Transmit button. InteliDOX will check the drugs on the script against the patient's recorded allergies and existing medications, but remember, not any old allergies or meds that are marked with red exclamation points. If any potential problems are found, they'll be listed, along with links to additional details. If you want to change the script based on these warnings, just click the Change this prescription button to return to the prescription entry screen. To continue with the script despite the warning, click the red Prescribe Anyway button. Next, you'll see a list of pharmacies that can receive prescriptions electronically. If a prescription has previously been sent for this patient, the last pharmacy used will automatically be highlighted for you. Otherwise, all pharmacies located in the patient's home city and state will be listed, as well as all mail order pharmacies. If you only want to see retail pharmacies, just uncheck the SureScripts mail order box. You can use these buttons at the bottom of the pharmacy list to search for a pharmacy by name, address, city, state, zip code, or phone number. Click the Reset button at the left to clear out any search settings you've used and to view the complete pharmacy list. I'll search for a pharmacy by name, and when I see the one I want, I'll click it. To actually transmit the script to the selected pharmacy, click the ePrescribe button down here at the right. InteliDOX will display a summary of the prescription, and if you need to include information like the patient's primary and secondary diagnoses, prior authorization information, or your supervisor's name, this is where you do that. If you see that changes to the script are needed, or if you want to cancel sending the script, there are buttons for that here. But if everything is okay, click the green button to continue. You'll get one more chance to review the script, and you can still back out at this point. But if everything is okay, click the green Send Now button to transmit the script to the pharmacy. After a few seconds, the patient's medication list will reappear with the new medication on it. This ePrescribe version of InteliDOX includes a few new features on the Meds screen. InteliDOX has always let you record the patient's external medications, like over-the-counter meds or those prescribed by doctors outside your practice. You can still add external medications manually, like this. Or you can check to see if any medication history is available through the Pharmacy Benefit Manager, or PBM. Medication history information is not always available, and it may be incomplete. But if InteliDOX does find any medication records, you can import them into the patient's meds list by clicking either the Auto link, which quickly adds whatever information InteliDOX found, or the Manual link, which starts a new record for an external medication based on what was found in the PBM medication history and lets you manually complete the entry. There's also a Check for Interactions button. As you saw earlier, InteliDOX automatically checks for drug-to-drug and drug-to-allergy interactions as you create new scripts, but only the drugs on the new script will be checked then. If you want to check everything on the patient's active meds list for interactions, click the Check for Interactions button. Remember, any of the patient's old drugs or allergies that are marked with red exclamation points will not be included in this check. ePrescribing will change the way you handle refill requests. Once pharmacies start receiving new electronic scripts from your practice, they'll quit faxing refill requests to you and start sending refill requests electronically. At least once a day, check the alert window down here at the bottom right corner of the InteliDOX screen to see if you have any refill requests. Click the Refill Requests link to see the actual requests. Each request will include the date and time the request was sent from the pharmacy, and the patient's name, gender, date of birth, and home address. If that information matches a patient in InteliDOX, the request will automatically be linked to that patient's account, and there will be a link that lets you view the patient's current meds list. The refill request will also include the name and contact info for the pharmacy that sent the request, the prescriber's name and contact information, and a summary of what was previously prescribed and dispensed. This first request is one that cannot be handled electronically, since it's for a controlled medication. If the patient actually needs a refill of this controlled drug, I can click the View Patient Meds link to open this patient's meds screen, create a new script for the drug, and handle it appropriately, for example, by printing it. Then, to remove this request from the list, I'll click the Deny button, check the Request Already Responded to by Other Means box, and click the Send Denial Now button. The next refill request also cannot be handled electronically just yet because InteliDOX couldn't tell which patient it belongs to. There's no account number shown here. I'll fix that by clicking the Change link, then selecting the correct patient. Now I can click the View Patient Meds link to review the patient's current meds, close that screen and return to the refills list, and click the Approve button to let the pharmacy know they can do the refill. Here's another request. I'll review the patient's current meds list, and I could approve the refill request as it's written just by clicking the Approve button. Let's say that I want to make changes to the medication, its strength, or the dosage instructions. I'll click the Deny New Rx to Follow button, then click the Send Denial Now button. InteliDOX will send the denial message to the pharmacy, then open the prescription entry screen for me, so I can immediately create and transmit the new script. After I send the new script, the refill request will disappear from the list. If you have any questions about the new ePrescribe or electronic refills functionality, please send us email at support@busynet.com or give us a call at 918-858-4440, voicemail option number 2.